Hi, my name is Alina and I'm working as a tax consultant here in Melbourne, Australia since a year. I moved here as an international student in 2017 and I didn't know anything about the Australian taxes, even though I've worked as an accountant back in India. So I'm here to help you with the basics. Yeah, that's what I'm here to do. So if you're new to Australia and you want to know about getting your taxes back in the coming weeks of July when you should be lodging your tax returns, and if you're confused about where to start, how to go around it, this video will help you with that. When can you lodge your tax return? So in Australia, the financial year starts on the 1st of July and ends on the 30th of June of every year. So this could be different to your home country. So the year starts on 1st of July, ends on 30th of June. You can lodge your tax return from any time after the 30th of June until the end of October. So July to October is when you can lodge your return. But you should lodge it as soon as possible to get the refund back as early as you can. It's like an extra bonus saving in your bank account. Who is an Australian resident for tax purposes? Is it the same as a resident in terms of immigration, or is it something different? Well, it's not at all related to your immigration status, which is important to note. You could be a temporary resident based on your immigration status, but still be considered as a resident for tax purposes. Like you could be an international student, a working holiday visa holder, or a spouse visa holder, or any visa holder, as long as you have lived in Australia for 183 days or more during the financial year, or you've shown ties to the country, like you live here, you rent a place here, and you have intentions to stay beyond 183 days, then you're considered as a resident in Australia and you have to lodge your tax returns. So there's no escaping there. So if you are a resident for tax purposes in Australia, you get a tax-free threshold of $18,200. That means all your income up to $18,200 will not be taxed. If you've been doing part-time work and your income from all the employers is under $18,200, all of the tax that has been withheld will be back as a refund in your bank account if you lodge your taxes with the ATO. What happens if you earned more than $18,200 during the year? Well, beyond $18,200 up to $37,000, you will be charged at 19%, but this is progressive taxation. What does that mean? So first $18,200, no tax at all. Let's say your total income was $20,000. So for the balance $1,800, you will be charged 19% tax just on that $1,800 amount. Everything else is still tax-free. Just like that, depending on how much you're earning, you will be taxed at a different rate. And if the amount of tax that has been withheld on your income is sufficient to cover that tax liability, you won't end up paying a tax bill. It's very rare that you have to pay a tax bill. Usually you either get a refund back or there is no liability towards the end. That's a very good thing about the Australian tax system, that you really don't have to worry about your taxes if you've done the documentation very well. You need to take this into account that if you're a working holiday visa holder, you don't get any tax-free threshold. So unfortunately, your income from the first dollar gets taxed here in Australia. It starts at 15 cents in 15% rate and goes on depending on how much income you've earned. But yeah, you don't get to claim any tax-free threshold if you're a working holiday visa maker. So how do you lodge your tax returns? For this, you can either do it yourself on the MyGov website. I'll put the link down below. You just go on the website, fill in your details and submit it. Or you can go through a registered tax agent. There are many tax agents who can do your tax returns online, or you can go into the office face to face. Usually online taxes are priced cheaper and are just more convenient. So if you're lodging your taxes online, all you need is your last payment slip, the pay slip from your employer, or the final PAYG summary from your employer. Now, because of single touch payroll system, you can actually go to your MyGov account on the ATO website and check how much is your income earned during the year, depending on whether your employer has finished their formalities related to payroll with the ATO or not. Apart from that, just the basics are TFN and ABN. That's a tax file number or an Australian business number. You need either of these two so that your income gets traced and recorded with the employer as well as the Australian Taxation Office. You will need a bank account so that your refund gets deposited in the bank account if you have an estimated refund. If you are doing your taxes through a tax agent, you might need an additional document to prove your identity. An ID proof such as passport or driver's license to prove that you are you while doing taxes with a tax agent. You should also know what is your HEX debt balance. A tax agent can help you in many ways. Tax laws are constantly changing, so they will help you know what the rules are. There are so many different types of visas in Australia, and there are different rules for many of the different kinds of visas, like working holiday visas. They can maximize your tax refunds by advising you what deductions you can claim depending on your occupation. And also, if you've forgotten to lodge your tax returns on time, you can always get an extension if you go through a tax agent. They can talk to the ATO on your behalf as well. So if you think you're not confident doing your own tax returns, always trust someone who knows their shit. In case you're not eligible for the Medicare benefits, that is, if you don't have a Medicare card in Australia, then you will need something called as a Medicare exemption certificate. This is extremely important for international students or working holiday visa holders, anyone who doesn't want to pay the 2% Medicare levy. You need to provide ATO with a Medicare exemption certificate so that you are not charged that 2% levy that other citizens of Australia are charged. So to apply for a Medicare exemption certificate, you just need to go on a website, fill in your details and get the certificate for every year. So for financial year 18 to 19, you will need one Medicare exemption certificate stating those dates. For the next financial year, again, if you are not eligible for Medicare benefits and you want to claim exemption from Medicare levy, you need to apply for another Medicare exemption certificate for that year and keep it as evidence with you. ATO has been quite strict with this because there has been a lot of confusion amongst taxpayers, and many of them say yes, but they're actually liable to pay Medicare levy. So make sure that you know if you're eligible for exemptions or not, and if you are, then do get an exemption certificate with the right dates with you. So some of the common questions that I come across when I talk to clients about deductions is can I claim my public transport travel fee? So if I'm traveling on public transport from work to home and home to work, can I claim that as a travel deduction on my tax return? Unfortunately, you can't. ATO has considered this as a private expense, so not allowed as deduction on your tax return. However, if you're working at two different jobs, two different sites, and you're traveling from one job site to the other job site, you can claim the travel expense in that case. Another common query is about uniforms. You can claim uniform purchase as well as laundry as deduction, but only if your uniform has an employer logo on it, or it's a protective uniform like high-vis jacket which is required at your work, or something like steel-capped boots or non-slip shoes for nurses. But if you're working in hospitality and if you have been asked to wear black top and black pants by your employer, even though it's a uniform, sorry, but you can't claim it as deduction. Sorry. Do you need to mention details of your spouse or partner on your tax return? Well, if you are in a de facto relationship or you're married to someone even for one day during the financial year, yes, you have to mention their details on your tax return. Now you may ask, what are the details that you need to mention? So there will be two different tax returns. There's no such thing called as a joint tax return for couples. You will lodge your own separate return and your spouse or de facto partner will lodge their own tax return. However, you need to provide each other's personal details on your tax returns as well as their income details, because a lot of calculations on the tax return that are done by the ATO depend on the family income rather than your own individual income, and for that purposes they need to know how much money are you making as well as your spouse. So for that reason you need to mention their income and personal details on your tax return. The family income rather than your own individual income, and for that purposes they need to know how much money are you making as well as your spouse. So for that reason you need to mention their income and personal details on your tax return. So it's the end of financial year approaching soon, and it's the 1st of July 2020. What do you do now? So you know that you're a resident for tax purposes in Australia. You already have your tax file number. You've earned some money during the financial year. Doesn't matter from how many employers, for how many days, months. Yeah. You have your last pay slip or the final PAYG summary with you. You already have a bank account opened in Australia. Just get on to the MyGov website and do your taxes online, or go through a registered tax agent. Go to any of your local tax agents in your neighborhood, or get online. There are heaps of tax agents who can help you online, and get in your tax returns as soon as possible so that you can get the refund back by, let's say, the mid of July. If you lodge it early as the 1st of July, you should be getting back your money by the 15th of July or so. And just spend it on whatever you want. Especially during these times, it's a huge help if you get some extra money from the ATO. Spend it, save it, invest it, whatever. Yeah, just get it in your hands. Yeah. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, just like the video, and follow me for the next few upcoming videos about tax returns. Happy refunding.